Welcome back to the State and Local Sports Show, a special expanded Sac-Joaquin Section Basketball Playoff Edition. Here, as always, with Mark Tinnis, co-founder and editor of CalHighSports.com, and Rich Estrada joining us today, also known as Black Hat Football, or I guess Black Hat Basketball this time of year. I'm not sure. Your brand is Black Hat Football, though. The Sac-Joaquin Section basketball brackets were released on Thursday. 12 divisions. A ton of teams. I should be able to do the math real quick, but I can't. And 3 number 1 seeds in the area. We got the Western Ranch boys, who stand out to me the most because it is the first time in their program history, a relatively short program history, about 11, 12 years, they have earned a number 1 seed. Number 2 in that division is Capital Christian of Sacramento. Capital Christian actually beat Western Ranch in a tournament or showcase game by 5 points earlier in the year, kind of a morning game. Western Ranch didn't have Anthony Booker, their center, yet. For you two, looking at that division, Western Ranch boys number 1 seed deserves. Surprising. Any thoughts on how that played out?
Yeah. Western Ranch or Capital Christian, 1 or 2. Normally you think it wouldn't matter. Here's why it matters. Western Ranch is guaranteed lock to make the final. Here's why. They win the opener. Piece of cake. They're going to knock off at 8 or 9. I love the fact in the little pod next to them, you got Placer, small school out of a bad league, and then you've got Rio Linda and Inderkum. Inderkum's a 5. Inderkum just lost to a 13 seed not 2 weeks ago. So I see the seeds, and the section did a nice job with the seeding overall. So if they say there's a 13 seed is a 13, I don't think that bracket's that good for them. Now down below, you got Capital Christian, you got Manteca, you're throwing some other schools. Sierra's down there. Does Sierra mess somebody up? I think Division III is going to be a blast for the boys.
You don't want to play Scott Thomason team this time of year. And although you hate to hear it's a horrible thing, one of their best players, DJ White, his father just passed away. He responded with an emotional game, over 30 points and beating Lathrop just to get to the playoffs. So, this is going to be an emotional postseason for Sierra, and regardless, you just don't want to play a Thomason coach team this time of year.
No, I think Sierra, as a number 10 seed, definitely stands out as a team that could go on a late run and make a lot of noise in this division. And as you mentioned, Capital Christian is going to have to beat Manteca before they even play potentially Western Ranch. So that's going to be tough. Watch out for Manteca, because we've seen a lot of years in basketball and baseball and many sports where a team like Western Ranch beats Manteca 3-4 times in a row. Then in that one game that really counts at the end, the team that lost all those other games wins the big one at the end and moves on. And I don't know if that's going to happen, but I'd be very, very careful if I'm Western Ranch having to play Manteca again.
Well, they know from experience. Last year, Manteca sweeps Western Ranch in the VOL series. The big guy, Hundal, Verhoeven, just too much height, too much length. Western Ranch figured it out when it mattered in the playoffs, beat them by 20. It was just a party for them by the end. They had a breakaway dunk. It was like the peak of their season. So Western Ranch at least knows, not even just from past history, but last year, guys on their team know exactly what that can be like. And you talk about Sierra making a little run. Say they beat number 7 Vista Del Lago in the first round. Say they were to shock the world and beat number 2 Capital Christian. How about a semifinal against their arch rival? That game's at Galt. They could pack the place. Not that far away. That's a fun prospect to think about. Looking up on the other side, we have Division I girls, and I know you guys lost sleep over this shock, but the St. Mary's girls are number 1 in Sac-Joaquin Section Division I. They are looking for their record 17th Sac-Joaquin Section title. In my limited time covering high school sports, I have never seen, like last year, a team win a section title and treat it like if it was a regular season win. That's how commonplace they are for this team. For you two, looking at the Division I bracket, anything stand out? Anyone stand out who could at least push St. Mary's, kind of like McClatchy did in the finals last year for about 10 minutes until St. Mary's took over?
No, they're not going to get pushed in this bracket whatsoever.
I agree.
No, they're not. They're going to roll. St. Mary's at this point, they seem like they're healthy. I think the only team that really, frankly, the game they're going to have to worry about is winning the NorCal final, probably against Miramonte. Miramonte and Mitty will probably play in the semifinals. St. Mary's will get to the finals and play the winner of that game, and that'll be their big game of the year, really. They've obviously got to be focused every time they go out on the court, but if they stay focused and do what they have to do, they should get to that NorCal final, and that's the game where they figure to run into Miramonte, and Miramonte's undefeated as well and has a great player, Sabrina Ionescu, who could just put on a show, and you never know what could happen in that type of environment. But if they get through that and then they go to Sacramento, back to Sacramento for the Open Division State Final, they'll be heavily favored there too, because Southern California isn't very good this year.
Looking further down the Division I bracket, an interesting placement. Lincoln of Stockton, number 6, probably the lowest seed they would have expected yet. They're on the other side of the bracket from St. Mary's. They play a number 3 St. Francis team who has been very good, but not a world beater like some of the other teams in Northern California this year. And in the Sac-Joaquin section, you got to get to the semifinals. That'll get you to the state playoffs. And once they get to the state playoffs, if they were to, they wouldn't have to deal with St. Mary's or Miramonte. They'd probably be in Division I. Mark, I know you touched on that in your column this week. What jumps out at you when you see Lincoln and their future prospects? Not necessarily 2 weeks from now, maybe 3 weeks from now.
I think Lincoln actually, you would think they got a number 6 that people will go, oh, that's an outrage. No, actually they got a good seed. The reason they have a good seed is because the section kind of screwed up and put St. Francis 3rd and McClatchy 4th. And really McClatchy was probably the 3rd best team in that division, and McClatchy seemed like they might be better than Lincoln, but I don't think St. Francis really is. And then they had Golden Valley 5th, which definitely doesn't make much sense. And so then Lincoln is sitting there in 6th. Well, Lincoln then is opposite St. Francis. They're away from St. Mary's until potentially the final. So actually I think they're in a pretty good spot. Not only did they put St. Francis 3rd, but they put Golden Valley 5th. So Lincoln doesn't have to play McClatchy either until way down the road. So I think they got a good path. They still have to obviously go out and win a tough road game if they do play St. Francis, and St. Francis is well coached and does have some strong, experienced senior players. So that isn't like a gimme game or anything for sure. But I do think it's a winnable game for Lincoln.
As opposed to some years past, looking at the Division I boys basketball bracket, it's a tough road for our area teams. The only team from San Joaquin County with a home seed is St. Mary's at number 8. Had St. Mary's scored one less basket against Lodi, they would have still split the league title, but they would have lost the point differential. Thus, they would have been in a much weaker Division II bracket. Of course, Coach Ken Green, very competitive guy. He didn't want to hear about that, and I get that. You have to think that way. They host number 9 Wood, a winnable game for them. I think they should win that. But their gift, should they win that, would be to go to number 1 Folsom, an excellent guard, Jordan Ford, the Sac Bees reigning player of the year. Could be a second consecutive loss in the postseason for St. Mary's to Folsom in terms of the mainstream sports. We also have Chavez 13th going to number 4 Jesuit. We have Edison at 11th going to number 6 Granite Bay. Number 10 Lodi going to number 7 Oak Ridge. And West, pretty good team for a 15 seed, especially their top tier guys, but they go to number 2 Modesto Christian and one of the better prospects around in Robinson Edahin. Either of you, your thoughts on Division I and just that brutal road for teams around here to try and even make a splash?
Okay. First, late to the party, Lincoln girls. Let me tell you why that's a great thing for them. Last year, they lost twice to St. Mary's. They got a number 5 seed. They had to go to Davis. They felt they got hosed up at Davis YOLO. This time they came back. They're the only school that plays St. Mary's twice around here. Nobody else does that. It's an agreement between the two schools, not necessarily between the two coaches. Lincoln takes its losses. Lincoln was scared to death they were going to get a 5 seed again, which puts you on the road again and sends you to St. Mary's. 6 is fantastic. They open up with Davis, and that's a fun one because you get Davis down to your place now. Now you get to,
pay back and their seniors are gone.
Exactly. Okay. And over on the D1 boys side, Modesto Christian's a blast. I think they're the most fun team in that bracket to watch. If you have a chance to see them play, they're worth going out to. They're entertaining, nice coach, and they play a very fundamentally sound kind of basketball. They get a reputation for being run and gun and shooting everywhere. Really nice skills there.
Looking at that Division I bracket and some potential predictions, I haven't seen either Folsom or Modesto Christian play, but I believe in guards, especially in high school and college, guards who can control the ball this time of year. I know Modesto Christian has some good ones. I like Jordan Ford and Folsom. That's more of a home game that have a lot more fans there for a Saturday night marquee against Modesto Christian. I think Folsom will take this bracket, which is a brutal one when you get to the semifinals. Your guys' predictions for Division I boys?
I will go with Modesto Christian just because I think they're a better team overall with the big guy in the middle. Folsom doesn't really have a big guy in the middle like that. And then the other dark horse team to watch in D1 boys is Wood Creek, which has Jordan Brown, one of the top sophomores in the nation. And Wood Creek just beat Folsom in overtime on the road at Folsom to wrap up the league. And Folsom still won the league title, but Wood Creek is definitely a team to watch. Have a great coach, Paul Hayes, gets his guys ready for the postseason every time, and that's a team that even at a number 5 seed is a real dark horse thing. But I'll go with Modesto Christian to win in Folsom. The thing is, those two teams may play again in the NorCal Open division. So whoever wins the section, the other team could avenge it in the NorCal final. I know if you're the CIF and you're looking for a big crowd in that division, that Open Division State final, you want Folsom in that game because they're going to pack the place if they get to the Open Division State final, and it's wide open in the north at who could go to the Open Division final, and so Folsom and MC are definitely two of the best teams for that.
I could see Rich shaking his head. I don't know if you're thinking what I'm thinking. The CIF might not want Modesto Christian as much just because they don't have as nearly, it's just a tiny school, not as nearly big of a fan base.
They don't draw, and frankly, that's become one of the problems with these state events when they bring in a lot of parochial, small private schools that don't bring people with them. It's a very small crowd, and you end up losing money or not. You're not getting the presentation that you want when you do that. That's the case. You got to find some way to package them and kind of get more people in. But I was going to ask about Division I. You surprised? I was surprised Wood Creek was a 5. I would have made them a 6 for the same reason Lincoln girls are a 6. They just beat Folsom, and now they may be the second best team. They just beat Folsom. They may be the second best team in the section, and they got them playing Folsom in the semifinals probably. I would have bumped them down to 6, put them in the other bracket. One of the reasons I love Modesto Christian is their path is so easy. You know, Folsom has got Wood Creek, Jesuit, both in that top bracket. Down below, Sheldon. Sheldon's not what they were in the past. You know, I think Modesto Christian rolls 1, rolls 2. I think they get Sheldon on a neutral court. Third quarter, they pull away. I think the bottom half of the bracket is much weaker than the top half.
Division I girls, I think we haven't gone through it yet. In this round, we pretty much would pick St. Mary's. I think everyone here at this table. Looking over at Division III boys, you know, we've seen the number 1 seed can mean nothing if you're not ready. Western Ranch last year was a 9 seed and knocked off number 1 Christian Brothers on the road. But this Western Ranch team is exceptional. They're playing their best basketball right now. As opposed to last year, they actually have some height and some length to complement their exceptional guards. They got Anthony Booker, 6'9", 6'10". D'Angelo Finley, 6'5", is quietly one of the best players in the county, in the area. I think they'll finish it off. Despite all the success, they've still managed to keep a little bit of the us against the world feeling, not just for them, but for that school, which can be maligned sometimes. So I think it'll take an effort against Manteca or Cap Christian in the final, but I think they'll finish the job.
My question with Manteca, you mentioned earlier guards in the playoffs. Does Manteca have the guards to make the semis and go to the finals? Go to NorCal. So do they have the guards to win the whole thing?
I think they do potentially have the guards to win the whole thing. They've been close enough to Western Ranch the 2 times they played. They've been, I think, 5 or 6 point differences. You could see it happen. The inclusion of Dwight Young, transfer from Lincoln, he can shoot the 3 ball. And for a while, he was the top free throw shooter in the section and around 90%. So it was kind of like it was like Mariano Rivera. As soon as they had a lead, you get toward the end, it's over because they'll get him the ball and he'll make his free throws. They have another guard, Frankie Lopez, who can shoot, but they don't have the kind of ball dominant, not in a ball hog kind of way, but in just keeping the possession alive kind of guards that are helpful this time of year. I think you did a feature on Titus Verhoeven. I think he does a nice job of being that guy when they need it. Even though he's 6'7", you wouldn't think so. So definitely, I think they can get to the semifinals, and who knows? I certainly think they have the capacity to win a title, but it'll take their big guys having some career nights too. I think
their big guys will definitely have to have some career nights. I think Wooten will need to stay out of foul trouble. He was in foul trouble. I saw the first Western Ranch Manteca game, and if he plays the full minutes, maybe it's a different outcome. So they have to watch the fouls for their big guys. If their big guys can stay foul trouble and stay out of it, I think they do have a better chance of winning. If you picked Western Ranch, I think I would agree with that because I do think that's an exceptional team that's playing their best right now, and I think that's a solid pick.
Real quickly, looking at Division III girls, we've got East Union at number 2. I think my initial thought is number 1 Christian Brothers will handle that bracket. I really have no clue. I haven't seen much of Division III girls basketball, but I know they have some good competition up there. Some quick thoughts from you guys on who might prevail in a very crowded Division III girls bracket.
Division III girls is a bracket that definitely seems to me that one of the lower seeds, a 4 or a 5 or a 3 seed, could perhaps win it over East Union or Christian Brothers. And the team that I would pick as my upset special, so to speak, would be Inderkum, which is the number 4 seed. Inderkum has split their games with Rio Linda and League. They won the first time, lost the second time. They have some good players I'm familiar with. And the thing that stands out about Inderkum is some of the teams they've played, like Brea, Linda, and some other top teams from Southern California in tournaments. They've also have a win over Cardinal Newman of Santa Rosa, which is a pretty impressive win. So them sitting it as the number 4, I think they have the players and they have the strength of schedule and a lot of other indications that that's a number 4 team that could win it all.
Final thoughts from you guys. I will shoot mine out there real quick. I think that Brookside Christian will sweep section titles, Division 4 girls, Division 5 boys. Parting thoughts about the madness here as we're about to get underway of a lot of basketball over the next month and a half. Go ahead.
For fun, Calaveras boys. Nice guy in the middle. They're going to have a huge crowd. Also, what's always fun is anytime they play, it's the last time you're ever going to see Redskins as far as Calaveras basketball. And that means something up there. I think that those people they're getting off on the fact that hey, they're in the playoffs and they got a chance to be Redskins a few more games. I'll say is this. I've never gotten the sense from Calaveras that there's ever been anything disparaging about the nickname, other than simply, hey, that's our nickname. There's a lot of pride in it. I understand the politically correct issues, but I think the people in San Andreas, hey, they're mountain folk. They don't like to be told what to do. I think that's that little burr in the saddle that gets into the semifinals.
And for them, for the players, they have something higher they're playing for. I wrote this week about their coach, Craig Clifton, who's coping with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. One of the players on the team, Dylan Burrs, started a huge fundraiser for him. So as those guys line up, think about for the seniors, their last chance to play basketball, last chance is Redskins, and they're going to want to honor him too. So, if I'm anyone in Division 4, I would not want to be playing that team. And they're in that part of the bracket where they're away from Central Catholic, the one team where I just close my eyes and say, well, season's over for them. So, they have a chance to at least push for the semifinals and keep their season alive. Any parting thoughts for you, Mark?
You mentioned Brookside with the sweep. I think in Division 4 girls, I think Brookside Christian is a heavy favorite. I think they are going to win that one rather easily. And if they don't move to the open division in the NorCals, and they probably won't, they would be also a solid choice to go all the way to the D4 state final again like they did last year. On the boys' side in Division 5, it's going to be a lot tougher. It's possible they'll sweep, but in D5 boys, you have to go also and look at the results because Brookside has a loss to Sacramento Country Day. Sacramento Country Day has a loss to Bradshaw, and Bradshaw Christian has only a 2-point loss to Manteca. So Bradshaw is probably the team to beat there, but it certainly wouldn't be a shock if Brookside won. Then the other thing to watch for is in D4 boys, we have an undefeated team, Liberty Ranch of Galt at 27-0. They're seated second behind Central Catholic. A lot of people are surprised they weren't seated first, but I don't. It's probably a good pick. Central Catholic is played a tougher schedule, but still, when a team is 27-0, that's definitely worth a lot of attention, and I'm definitely noticing it. For our record book purposes, for winning streak during a season, and all kinds of other reasons. So watch for that one in D4 boys.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, guys. For Mark Tennis's and Cali Sportswear, CaliSports.com, the Gold Club membership, less than $20 a year, less than $2 a month. Rich does fantastic work. Usually focuses on football, but doing some basketball stuff too for the record, and blackhatfootball.com. For him on Twitter, that's blackhatfootball with one L. For Mark, it's at Cali Sports. I am at Record Preps, and thanks for joining me, guys. I'm looking forward to the next month or so.
March Madness.
Hey, best of luck.
February/March Madness doesn't sound as good. All right, thank you.